Hello, second grade, and welcome to the very end of Unit 1. We're going to get started on Unit 2 in just a moment. Now, for Tuesday, you're going to have your big idea project to turn in. So this needs to have been completed. You needed to make sure that you met all of these requirements. Over here, flip that your globe has the continents and the oceans labeled on them. So you see how it has the names, and you want to put the names of the oceans as well. It has the equator, and that's supposed to be labeled, as well as a prime meridian that needs to be labeled, your north and your south poles, and it has to be colorful and detailed. Also, you need to answer your big idea question down here at the bottom. Now, to turn this in, you just need to take pictures of all the sides of your project, as well as taking a picture or scanning and uploading this page to show your answer for your big idea question. Once you're done with that, we're going to get started on Unit 2. Now, Unit 2 is going to be about Native Americans. And our big idea is culture influences the way people live. So culture, which is the traditions and practices from different people around the world, how it influences or impacts the way people's lifestyles are. Now, we know that Native Americans were the first people to live in North America. Most Native American tribes who lived in the same area shared some elements of their cultures. In this unit, we're going to learn about the cultures of many Native American tribes, and these are going to be our show as you go pages. So as we finish a lesson, we're going to come back to these two pages, pages 26 and 27, and we're going to fill in the information about each of the different kinds of tribes that we're going to study about. Now, this is going to be very useful for you for when we're doing our quizzes, when we do our assessment at the end of the unit, and when you do your big idea project for Unit 2. So make sure as you finish a lesson, while that information is still fresh and in your mind about each one of the tribes, you come back in and you fill in each one of these little note areas. Now let's get into our reading skill. So we're going to be talking some more about comparing and contrasting, and this is something we talked about a little bit in language arts before. When we're comparing and contrasting, we're looking at how things are the same and how things are different. So when we compare, we're looking at what makes those things the same. And when we contrast, we're looking at the things that are different about them, something that's special only to that one thing. So things can be the same or different. We compare things to find out how they're the same. We contrast things to find out how they are different. Comparing and contrasting will help you understand what you read in social studies, and it'll help you understand what you're reading in anything, any subject area that you're working on. So let's take a look at the Learn It section right here. So it says to compare and contrast, we're going to read the story about Scott and Nick. We're going to compare Scott and Nick by finding details that are the same, and we're going to contrast them by finding things that are different. So this you're going to be completing in your book. So have your books out and ready, and you can do this with me as we go through the video. So Scott and Nick are pen pals. Both boys are in the second grade. Scott lives in South Carolina. He lives in a high-rise apartment by the ocean. Right here. Nick lives with his family on a farm in Nebraska. Nick can see barns and fields of corn from his house. So this is where Nick lives. Now you can see already over here, they highlighted for you in this blue-purple color, things that are the same. So what we would talk about when we are comparing them. And then the parts that are in orange is the contrasting things or the things that make them different. So you're going to fill in this area over here to tell me how Scott, the things that are just about Scott, the things that are just about Nick, and then this middle area is going to be where we put in things that are the same about both. So this is called a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is a tool or a graphic organizer like this that we use to compare and contrast things so we can put our ideas down so that it's very easy for us to see and read and follow. Now, if you're doing this in your notebook, please make sure you are using your very best handwriting, because if I can't read it, I'm going to have to ask you to redo it. If you're going to be typing it, you can use the fill in sign option that I had told you guys about previously. It's this one right here. So when you click on that, it'll give you the option that looks like this to type. So I can type right here and talk about Scott. So I know Scott lives in South Carolina. He lives in a high rise, and you can see the ocean. Okay, so here's my information about Scott. Now I'm going to put in over here my information about Nick. Now, what do I know about Nick from over here? We know he lives on a farm. Lives on a farm in Nebraska. Let's see, barns and fields of corn from his house. So I can take this information and scoot it over into this area about Nick. And then I can try and kind of organize my information so it fits all in my Venn diagram. Okay, now in the middle, I want to put how they are the same. So the details that we're talking about when we're comparing or talking about how something is the same is what they have highlighted in that blue purple color. Okay, we know they're both pen pals. And they're both in the second grade. So this is my Venn diagram. Over on one side, I have the information about Scott. On the other side, I have the information about Nick. And in the middle, I have the information that's the same about both of them. So let's try the apply it section. Read the story below, circle the details that are the same, underline the details that are different. So Scott and Nick are very busy boys. Both of them go to school in the morning. Scott walks to school. Nick takes the bus. After school, both boys go to soccer practice. Nick likes to kick the ball. Scott likes to kick the ball. Nick likes to run. On the weekends, Scott and Nick enjoy their free time. Scott likes to swim. Nick likes to go horseback riding. Now, for you guys, what you're going to be doing to underline, so I don't have the option to, I can underline some things with this, but I don't have the option to draw a circle with the fill-in sign. So if you're doing this on your book, you can do it with your pencil. If you're using something like Kami or DocHub, where you can draw on it, you can do that as well. So we're going to circle, it says circle the things that are the same and underline the things that are different. So we know both of them are very busy boys, so that's something that's the same. They both go to school in the morning, that's the same. So I know Scott walks to school. Oops. And then I know that Nick takes the bus. And I know that both boys play soccer, so that's something that's the same. I know Scott likes to kick the ball and Nick likes to run. So I know that these are things that are different about them. These are contrasting details. On the weekend, Scott and Nick enjoy their free time. So that's something that's comparing, that's both of them. Scott likes to swim. You know, that's something that's only for Scott. And then Nick likes to go horseback riding. So I can extend these out. Now the parts that are the same. Oh, I can circle. Fantastic. Okay. It's just going to take a minute to let me. All right. So I know over here, Scott and Nick are very busy boys. So I can take this, I can drag it around. And I know both of them like to go to school. Or both of them go to school in the morning. And after school, they both go to soccer practice. All right, and on the weekend, they both enjoy their free time. So obviously, if you're doing this by hand, it's going to be a lot quicker than me trying to do it like this. But you understand the idea. So as we go through that, you're able to see the things that are the same about them and the things that are different. So we know that they are both busy. They both go to school in the morning. We know that Scott walks, but Nick takes the bus. And we know they both go to soccer practice. We know Scott kicks the ball and Nick runs. We know that both boys enjoy their free time on the weekends. Scott likes to swim and Nick likes to go horseback riding. So we've compared and contrasted using the information from the story that they gave us, both here in our Venn, when we created our Venn diagram, and over here when we were underlining and circling different things. Now, you don't need to do this part where you're cutting things out. You can if you like, but it's not something that I require of you. Now, some of the words that we're going to learn in this unit are highlighted right here in yellow. These are going to be our vocabulary words that we're going to work on here on the next page. Now, this is an area that I want you guys to pay attention to because I saw a lot of mistakes in this area in the previous unit. So our words are going to be the word region, culture, prairie, desert, immigrant, and settlement. Now, once you get to this section over here, you are answering the question that they have for you. So my first question says, what kind of land and water are in the region where you live? Okay, so we have the land is arable. Now that's a word that we learned in our last lesson. Arable means that it's good for farming, right? We have pretty good weather. And the water is mostly from the ocean and can't see my writing. Okay. That's okay. So what you're going to be doing in these sections is you're going to make sure that you are typing or writing out your answer. Now, we know that a region is an area that has common features. That means the whole area has a lot of the same things in it that make it different from other areas. So the desert is one region, right, where it's hot and dry and it gets very little rain. That's the same for the whole desert area. If you go to a tropical region, like a rainforest, that's the place that gets a lot of rain. It has a lot of vegetation, right? Lots of trees and bushes and plants. And it's usually warm and humid all the time. And that's the same for that entire area. So that makes it a region. So the region that you're living in, tell me right here in a sentence, what kind of land and water are in the region where you live? So we live on the west coast of the United States, right? Right on the coast of California. So the land we live, we have arable land, right? We're right by the coast. So we have nice mild temperatures. The land is good for growing things. And most of the water that surrounds us on the West Coast or that borders us on the West Coast is the Pacific Ocean. Now over here, a prairie is an area that's filled with, is an area of flat land or rolling hills covered in grass. So you don't see big trees in a prairie. So take a look down here. This is going to be similar to what a prairie is. So over here, I want you to draw a picture of a prairie. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but it does have to be neat. Now, your next word is the word desert. A desert is a large area of very dry land. So you've got 4 pictures over here. I want you to circle the picture of the desert. Now down here, your next word is the word culture. Culture is the beliefs and the way of life of a group of people. So depending on where you're from, you may have a different culture. If you are from Mexico, Mexican culture has a lot of traditions and things in it that affect people's lifestyles. If you are Somali, there's a lot of Somalian cultures from the different parts of Somalia that you may be from that affect your lifestyle. Same for any other culture. So over here, it says, write a sentence about what your family's culture is like. So tell me something special about the traditions and the culture in your family, the way that they do things. Your next word is the word immigrant. An immigrant is a person who comes from one country to live in another country. So if you were born somewhere or your parents were born somewhere else and they moved here, they're immigrants. And a lot of the people, unless you're a Native American, are immigrants or they are descendants of immigrants. That means they come from immigrant families that had started in different countries and then they moved over this way. Write a sentence about immigrants moving to the United States. So any sentence is fine. Just make sure you use a complete sentence. So a full thought and proper punctuation. Now, the last word we're going to talk about right now is the word settlement. A settlement is a place that's newly set up as a home. So it's a place that wasn't already built for homes before. When people are moving there for the very first time and they're building the very first homes there, it is a settlement. So it's not like a city or a town that's already set up. Draw more houses in this settlement. So just draw a few more houses over here on your page. After you've completed that, we're going to go down and we're going to talk about our primary sources. Now, primary sources, again, are what you see or what you get from someone who was actually there when something happened. They didn't hear about it from a friend. They didn't read about it in a book. They were actually present. They were there. They saw it happen or they heard it happen with their own eyes and ears. So a primary source that we're going to talk about today is an artifact. An artifact is a type of primary source, and it's something that was made or used by people in the past. So if you're looking at a specific time period, the tools that they use for cooking and for eating and for hunting, the things that they use for building or for studying, those are artifacts and they're primary sources because it's something that they used during that time. It's not something that they read about in a book. Artifacts can be things like pots and utensils or art. You can study artifacts to learn about how people lived long ago. In this unit, you'll learn about different Native American tribes that lived in the United States. So our first question here says, look at the image on the right. What are these artifacts made of? So take a look at these and tell me what you think they used to make these different kinds of spoons. How do you think these artifacts were used? So we have a couple different sized ones. Tell me what you think they may have been used for. So give it your best guess. And that's going to take you to the very end of the opener for Unit 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump in and do our Lesson 1 video as part of this one, since it's going to be something that you're going to be working on at the same time. Okay. So Lesson 1 is about Native Americans of the Southeast Woodlands. Now our essential question, how does where you live affect how you live? What do you think? So think about when you live in a certain place, what things about that place might change the way you live compared to where if you were living in a different area. And then down here for the word hunt, find and circle these words, the word region, culture, and the word belief. And you'll find all of those on this page. Now, the Southeast Woodlands. Hi, my name is Scott. My class has been learning about Native Americans. Native Americans were the first people to live in North America. Native American tribes or groups lived in different regions of the United States. A region is an area with common features that make it different from other areas. Look at the map to see all of the regions. Today, our class went on a field trip to the History Museum to learn more about the Native Americans. Our guide told us that the tribe the tribes who lived in the same region shared the same culture. Culture is the beliefs and way of life of a group of people. So all of these words we've already read through in this area, go ahead and circle them. Make sure you have this question answered with a complete sentence. Let's go on to page 35. Our tour started in a room that showed the different life, the daily life of Native Americans in the Southeast Woodlands. The Seminole, Cherokee, and Creek are all tribes that lived in this region. Southeast Woodlands was full of trees, plants, and animals. The northern part of the region had mountains and rivers. The southern part had grasses and swamps. Both parts of the region were usually warm and had rain. So over here, we talked about what we find in the Southeast Woodlands, and that's going to be this area right here in orange. So we talked about the northern part or the upper part of the Southeast Woodlands and then the bottom part of the Southeast Woodlands. So this is our map over here. The title for our map is Native American Regions. We can see that it's divided up into different sections. We have the Pacific Northwest, we have the Southwest, we've got the Plains, we've got the Northeast Woodlands, and we've got the Southeast Woodlands. We also have our major bodies of water labeled. So we're going to go down here and complete the chart with the words or phrases from the text. So about the Southeast Woodlands, what do we know about the land? So we can go back into this section right here. And we can see that the Southeast Woodlands was full of trees, plants, and animals. They had mountains and rivers. So those are all going to go right here. So many trees, plants, and animals, mountains and rivers. The weather. So the northern part of the region had mountains and river. The southern had grasses and swamps. Both were usually warm and had rain. So warm and rainy is going to go over here. And the tribes that we're talking about are the Southeast Woodlands. Now over here on our map and globe skills, it says circle the Southeast Woodland region on the map above. So that's the part that's in orange. So I want you to circle this area right here. Make sure that you've completed all the parts of these two pages. So this section right here, circling, completing the box, and circling the Southeast Woodland region here. Now this next section, the header is called Daily Life in the Southeast Woodlands. Many tribes in the Southeast Woodlands built homes called chickees. They built the frames of chickees out of wood from trees that they cut down. They built the floors up off the ground to protect people from water and snakes. The land in the region was very good for farming, fishing, and hunting. So there's a lot of important information right here. And over here, we've got our diagram of what a chickee looked like. And under our heading that says housing, it says people built their roofs of chickees out of leaves and grass. Practices and beliefs. Many Southeast Woodlands tribes celebrated Green Corn Festival to honor the summer's first crop. So the first crop of corn that comes in the summer, they usually had a celebration around that time. And for art, some of the Southeast Woodland tribes made pottery out of wet clay dug from the ground. So they would dig, when you dig down really deep, after you get past the regular soil and dirt, you'll get to a layer of clay that's kind of just really thick and kind of sticky. And they would make pottery out of that and then leave it out in the sun to dry so it got really hard so that they could use it. Food. Men hunted the deer and fished for food. Women dried some of the meat for winter. Women also grew corn and squash. So the men did most of the hunting and the women did most of the gathering of plants and drying the meat after it was hunted. Clothing. People used deer skin to make their clothing. Men wore breechcloth. Breechcloths are pieces of soft leather. Women wore leather dresses. So these are the outfits that they were generally wearing in their tribe right here. Now let's go back to this section. It says Native Americans in the Southeast Woodlands used what for food and clothing? So we're going to go back into our text to find the answer for that. So we know that they use deer for food and clothing. So they would eat the meat and then they would use the deer skin to make the clothing out of. And you can find those answers right here. And then we're going to go in and answer your essential question. How does where you live affect how you live? So think back about the lesson that we just read and go ahead and answer your question with a complete sentence. Now that we've finished with that part, what we need to do is go back to our first page now that we've completed lesson 1, and we're going to fill out this area on the Southeast Woodlands. So their housing, the names of their homes, remember, were called chickees. Their clothing was breechcloths and leather dresses. Okay, their food we know was deer, fish, corn, and squash. All right, now as far as other, we know that they used clay to make pottery. And they had their green corn festival. So that's another thing that's special about the Southeast Woodlands. So this other section is where you just want to put interesting facts and celebrations and things that make that tribe unique. Now, as we go on and we read lesson 2, you're going to come back and fill in the lesson 2 section, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we would have finished unit 2. But for now, please make sure that you've filled in the sections, you've done the underlining and the circling, you've answered all of the parts here, you've read carefully, you've used complete sentences whenever you could, and that your work is neat and organized. If you're done with all of that, you'll be done with your social studies all the way through unit 2, lesson 1. I hope that this was a fun lesson for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, second grade. Bye-bye.